Podcast.
Touchdown Ram! Recovered by the Chargers. Touchdown UCLA!
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front!
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, LA? This is Ryan Dyrud with the LA Football Podcast, and support for LAFB is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Guys, I know a lot of you skip past these ads or just ignore them, but this is one that will actually benefit you every single time you use this product. The worst thing you can do is get nicks, cuts, scrapes, gashes, anything to your southern region down below. It's painful. It's gross. You don't want it. So that's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months, that's a year and a half, perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. And even better, you get 20% off and free shipping with the code LAFB at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code LAFB. I promise you, your balls will thank you. Los Angeles, what's up? What's good? Welcome into another edition of the Believe in LA Football Podcast. Always on the Believe Podcast Network, always on the LA Football Network, LAFBnetwork.com. Cover all your favorite teams here in Los Angeles. Got a great show for you today. As always, next to me on the Zoom, soon to be in person, Mr. Frostee Rucker, the great USC national champion, 13-year NFL legend. What's up, brother? How you doing?
And that's a two-time national champion for all you people that really want to know your history. I got rings. I'm good. I'm excited about today's episode. I'm excited about what's going on. The rain's cleared up. I see you have a new backdrop. A lot's going on. So what's up?
Yeah, it's the off season. We got some games to talk about. I know our teams didn't play, but we'll get into some. It's still the playoffs. We'll talk some. But yeah, I thought I switched up a little bit. These virtual backgrounds trip me up because your stuff disappears. But I want to rep all our teams back there.
Well, we can still see your beer every time you take a chug. So
okay, good. That's important.
That's very important.
Got to get the Golden Road.
About beer. Golden Road Brewery, right?
Got to get that Golden Road product placement in there. So, but yeah, man. What is today? How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. A lot of rain, but got to watch some real good football. And the rain kept me inside, so I was glued to the TV. And a lot of the games turned out exactly the way I didn't want them to turn out. So not in the wrong or right way, but that's what happened.
Yeah, we're going to get into those games. Off the top, I got to say, huge respect. Brady going back again. Mahomes, obviously, the next great QB. The Chiefs are just a powerhouse team. But I just want to at least say this. If I was asked, because I was asked beginning of the year, what's the one Super Bowl you don't want to see? And it was Bucks Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah. Again, we've talked about Brady before. He's the GOAT, man. He's the best, and you can't knock him off until someone beats him. But just as a fan, he's been in 10 Super Bowls now. Sometimes you want to see some different blood as a fan. And the Chiefs, being a Bronco fan, cover the Chargers, I just don't like the Chiefs. So those are the two teams I didn't.
You have your rhyme and reason why you feel that way. I didn't say I wanted to see this Super Bowl, but I'm here for it. You got the GOAT, Tom Brady, playing his 10th Super Bowl versus arguably the best football player in the game right now, which is the defending champion Super Bowl MVP. So it's a heck of a headline, a heck of a matchup, and they're going to all lay it out there. This is the conclusion to this whole COVID season. This up and down roller coaster of a season. And here you got it. You got the two best teams going toe to toe, and a very unexpected Tampa Bay team making the show. So it's a good one. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and everything I said, it will be a great game, which is what you want. I think it will be a solid game. I don't think Tampa Bay. Well, okay, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. So we're gonna talk about the games. In regards to our LA football, we've got some coordinator hires for both the Rams and Chargers. So we're going to talk, obviously, the Raheem Morris hire for our Rams, and then the Chargers have filled out the OC, DC, and special teams hire. So we'll get into that a little bit. And then finally, I do want to touch on this QB talk with the Rams, because you're seeing everywhere everyone's throwing out these crazy scenarios where the Rams could go get either Deshaun Watson or now Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't know if he'll be back in Green Bay, or Matthew Stafford from Detroit. So we'll talk about that a little bit, just see if there's any realistic ways that happens, or if it's just farce, which we'll get into.
I wish people were so pumped up on where the defensive linemen were going and the offensive linemen, but they're not. I get it. It's an offensive league. But there's been a lot of mysterious things thrown out there, and I want to see what will come forward. I like the topic, and I'm ready to dive into that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. If Aaron Donald was a free agent, there probably would be actually a lot of maybe hype about that, but he's not. They locked him up, luckily. So, but first, we're going to get into Raheem Morris talk. We are having a guest on the show, Mr. Ledbetter from AGC, the Atlanta Journal, is going to join us to talk about that. So before we get into that, as always, the show is brought to you by BetOnline.Ag. I lost some money this weekend. We predicted, last shows that I liked the Packers and I liked the Bills, and they didn't win. So I lost some money this weekend. But hey, plenty of fun to be had at BetOnline.Ag.
Last time I'm listening to you before I place a bet, I tell you that. But yeah, I lost money too. A-Rod, he should have ran that on third down.
Oh, dude.
I big fan, friend of him. Should have ran down, tucked it and go. Leave it all out there, because I really would have loved to see him make it, but it is what it is. That's the move. And everyone's talking about, going for it on fourth down. On third down, he could have scored.
Yeah.
So
I think on second down, he could have ran into, but we'll get into that. So, but if you do want to try to win some money back on the Super Bowl, there'll be even more bets to place, prop bets, all, coin toss, how long is the national anthem going to be, all sorts of crazy stuff. So head to betonline.ag, and great sign-up bonuses if you're not there for some reason yet. So that's betonline.ag. But Frost, let's go ahead and let's welcome him, Darryl Ledbetter from the AGC, to talk a little bit about this Raheem Morris hire for our Los Angeles Rams.
Don't get caught off guard with our virtual backgrounds here.
Okay.
We're not as prestige as you with the diplomas and whatnot. We got racket going on behind us.
Yeah, you're looking all professional back there. So how you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. Once you told me video, I had to go throw the bow tie on.
It looks great. It looks great. So thanks for joining us for a few minutes. We appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Darryl Ledbetter, you cover the Atlanta Falcons for AGC, and we're excited to talk a little bit about Raheem Morris. So I think this is a great hire for the Rams.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on your podcast. Yes, Coach Raheem did a great job here over the last 6 years. Things didn't go well at the end. Started going downhill at 28-3 there in the Super Bowl. They got it back the next year, got to the playoffs, lost on the 1 yard line at Philly. The Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl, and then, injuries, coaches started leaving. They couldn't put it back together. And, ended up with him being the interim coach over the last 11 games.
Yeah.
I've actually followed Raheem Morris since he was the head coach in Tampa. I had a couple of friends down there that were on this team and on his roster. They loved him. He was, the youngest coach at the time that, got the gig. So I played in the league 13 seasons. So I've kind of known what roster he was on and what he was doing and the influence he had. And he's a heck of a coach. And I'm glad that these Ram fans get to have him here. They have a departed defensive coordinator that was really good here. And, obviously when you're really good, you get picked up, and he's got a big opportunity for him and his family, and, try to get some wins over there in Charger land. But I think the Rams defense is going to be pumped to have Raheem.
Yeah, no question about it. He came here. They moved him from defense to offense. He was Julio Jones's coach. Trying to help him become a better candidate, because, it's like, hey, I know defense, I know offense now, I can put it together, we can attack from different ways. But when the defense fell apart in 2000 and years around together, 2019, they moved him over to defense, and all of a sudden the defense started playing well, and they won 6 of their last 8 games. So beat San Francisco out there. beat the Saints. So, he's able to communicate his messages very clearly. You saw the team play better once he took over last year, holding guys accountable and getting real specific in how they had to play. They were trying to do things that they didn't have the talent for, or they had overestimated the talent. So he simplified it and said, hey, we got to blitz. We can't rush the passer, so we got to blitz. And, so he started bringing linebacker, safeties, he's bringing he's doing whatever he had to do to get some pressure on quarterbacks because he knew he's dead if he just let him sit back there. So I know he's happy. He's got Aaron Donald. Probably don't have to blitz as much now.
Yeah.
But and of course having Jalen. And I too, Frostee, follow his career in Tampa because he was in the division. We talk twice a year and see him up at the combine in Indianapolis, and him and Coach Tomlin hanging out together usually. And just a really good teacher, a really good communicator, very clear with that New Jersey, New York accent. He's going to be right to the point, and they're going to know, the Rams players going to know exactly where they stand and exactly what he's going to need them to do in that defense.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the fact that he switched over to offense, because I wanted to ask you about that. What was the response among, I guess, Falcons fans when they hear their defensive backs coach is just going to move over and coach receivers? And what does that say about Coach Morris, just the character, the integrity, but also just his football IQ, that he's able to completely switch positions in one offseason after being with the team with just 1 year and really coached a great group. I mean, we saw obviously Julio Jones, but they draft Calvin Ridley a few years later and we saw his progression. So what does it just say about his IQ and why Rams fans should be so excited about just this knowledgeable guy?
Yeah, pretty sharp individual, went to Hofstra up in Long Island, New York. Coach Hearn saw him at a Jets practice and brought him on board and helped him get into the league that way. So, yeah, he's got the brain smarts and he's got the football smarts. He's been around it. And part of that move over to offense was kind of fueled by, his long-range goals of being a head coach. Mm-hmm. And, him and Kyle Shanahan had got along well in Washington. Then Kyle went to Cleveland and they reunited here in Atlanta. So he wanted to learn, some of the offensive stuff and how Kyle wants to attack defenses and, how that applies, across the board. So, yeah, he did a really good job. It was a seamless move. Didn't make sense to us at the time, but certainly was beneficial for the wide receivers and for Coach Morris and his more diverse outlook on the game.
Yeah, what I noticed when coaches can switch sides like that or just be adaptable for change, a coach told me one time, it's about being a leader of men, right? You can't just be one-sided and, you can specialize in certain things, but as a football player, you may be asked to play a different position. You may be asked to play a coverage you're not so comfortable with, but how can you adapt? And that's something he's done brilliantly. I would like to see him in a head coaching position soon because, taking steps like that, you see that he has a process, you see that he has a plan to achieve that. And that's a great thing. And I do want to say Happy Founders Day because I see that back there. I didn't pledge. I went to USC. I can't say it wasn't that big, but I was focused on other things. And I look back at my career now and I'm like, I wish I would have. I wish I did, so.
Still time. Ricky Lewis in LA is one of our national officers. So, I can give him your number.
Okay. Well, I'm up for it. I didn't know if it's never too late to do it. So, it's a fraternity that I'd like to be a part of. I tell you that.
Right. Well, there we go. I'm recruiting and doing work at the same time.
I love it.
Yes, I'll be sure to get him in touch with you.
Please do.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Darryl, last one for me.
Thank you. Congratulations on Founders Day.
Absolutely.
There you go. So last one for me. I know we told you I wouldn't keep you for too long. You're a busy guy, and thanks again for coming on. But don't dive into X's and O's. I don't want to put you on the spot like that. But what kind of defense can we expect from Coach Morris? Obviously, when Brandon Staley was here, they like to run a lot of nickel dime. They like to run 2 high safety sets, stuff like that. What kind of just simplified defense, I guess, if you want to put it for our fans, what Coach Morris runs?
Well, he came up in the Tampa 2 system, so they're always going to have that in their back pocket. Coach Dam is a cover 3 guy. from the Pete Carroll tree. So, you know, they played that here a lot. And then last year we saw everything. We saw a 3-4. We saw him morphing in and out of the 3-4 fronts, blitzes from everywhere, a lot of dime, a lot of nickel. You know, they did probably the best job on Kansas City this year. I don't know how up Kansas City was for the game, but, you know, they doubled Kelsey and Tyreek and made Damon Robinson beat them. So, you know, they missed the field goal to send it to overtime and lost by 3. I was surprised nobody else has tried to copy that game plan. It was a gutsy game plan because, you know, you're blitzing while, you know, one receiver is going to pretty much be open. And, you know, a lot of times Mahomes threw the ball away. So he's buried now. He's going to do, you know, he's got some better chess pieces in L.A. To do, you know, I'm thinking he can be pretty creative out there and go week to week and change it up. I know he's going to probably try to do that. I know he likes Jalen because, you know, early in his career, he had Rondé Barber in Tampa. And I mean, he used to match Rondé up on anybody, tight ends, wide receivers, slot guys, whatever. So yeah, he's going to be real creative with what he does with the, you know, base coming out of a Tampa 2 and cover 3 background.
Yeah, I believe getting the opportunity to have a full off season, maybe nothing's been unveiled yet, so what's going on, but having a full off season to get your personnel down and go through the motion with that, I think it's going to only fare well for this team. Darryl, like you alluded to, sometimes when they're throwing a lot of blitzes in and different people are coming, you know, they're masking something, they're masking their inefficiencies. So he did a masterful job at that and covering up some spots that could have been, you know, some holes in that defense, and you're playing your personnel, you know, and that really tells you how educated a guy is in the craft, because, you know, saying that gives me a way to bring up Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles have done the same thing. When I came to Arizona, he wanted to run a 3-4. He wanted to run it a certain way. He had so many pieces that he didn't have enough time to go through draft and do all this. He only had one draft, but he made it happen, and we became a top 10 defense and number 1 versus the run. It was because he had time to program and time to really look at his personnel and use them for what they can do. And I think him being in LA, Raheem, we're talking about having who he has with the Darius in the back with safety. You said Jalen up front with Brockers, and you know, you got a whole bunch of people that he can sit there and say, hey, this package, this down, this quarter is going to be for you. You're going to specialize in this. And I really want to see what he brings out of these players.
Yeah, and he's got Leonard Floyd too. I forgot about him.
There you go,
yeah. Because I've been following that kid since he was at Georgia. Slow start in Chicago. Looks like he's getting his feet under him out there. So I know he'll be happy to have some pass rush out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah, it sure does. And I really don't think this defense is going to miss a beat. I think it's a great hire, and we're happy to have it here. And hey, if the Rams organization has showed anything, it's pretty much a springboard to become a head coach. So I think he'll be a head coach again sooner rather than later. So, well, Mr. Ledbetter, it's an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on. And I know you're a busy guy, and so thanks for giving us some insight on this new hire. And hopefully we'll stay in touch and talk soon.
All right, Ryan and Frostee, you all take care and tell my man Sean McVay hello. He's one of my Atlanta guys.
There we go. We will. Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Have a good one.
So, yeah, you know, getting to talk to Darryl, you know, he was very informative of this hire that we have. I'm pretty sure he hates to see him go, as the Falcons were trying to figure their stuff out all last year, trying to get back to being a really good contender in their division, and they've kind of slipped away from that, and now we're getting a good piece of that. So Rams fans, you should be very pumped about this hire. I think, like Ryan alluded to in this interview, you're not going to skip a beat. It's only going to get better. With the full off season, understand his personnel, I think the sky's the limit for this defense, and I think this defense is going to be the reason they do whatever they do in the playoffs next year, because I'm saying it now, they're going to playoffs.
Yeah, there you go. I agree. But yeah, I read a story when he was getting his start back with Tampa, because everyone needs to remember, like, he was there. Kyle Shanahan, obviously Sean McVay was there, who's the Rams coach now. Mike Tomlin was there, who Darryl alluded to. And I read a story that Kyle told his dad, Mike Shanahan, who was then, I think, coaching, I can't remember if he was still with the Broncos or was then with the Washington football team, whatever you want to call them from back then. And he told his dad, like, hey, this Mike Tomlin guy is like going to be this phenomenal coach. But if you can't get him, you need to get this guy, Raheem Morris, because he's kind of a protege of Tomlin. He's just a great football mind, a good leader. And so he ended up getting Raheem Morris going to Washington, I think from 2012 to 2014. And I don't know if there was an overlap there with McVay. I'm not looking at numbers off the top of my head, but obviously there's that tree is kind of blossoming and now it's all coming full circle with them getting back together and coaching with the Rams. So I know we talked a lot about an internal hire. Guys like Aubrey Pleasant, our buddy Eric Henderson, who I think would have been great candidates, but I don't think this is a bad hire whatsoever. And getting Raheem Morris, who is he's only 44 and he's been in the league for like it feels like 20 years. So the dude knows what he's doing for sure.
Definitely qualified to do it. Obviously, we sit here and we bump our gums about anything that we like. Obviously, we want to see Coach Henney getting an upgrade to his resume, his status. But Raheem Morris is a great addition to this Rams team. It only strengthens them with the draft coming up, with an offseason coming up, and OTA's mini camp. This team is going to be on the blossom. But that does bring us to our next conversation about the quarterbacks.
Yeah, there we go. I just got to say real quick before we get into it, I love having guys like Darryl on, who is just, and I mean this absolutely respectfully, but is like old school journalism. Had the bow tie on. Great. We've had guys on that are, young, the up and coming, the Twitter journalists, if you will. And, he's just, old school journalism. I love it. Still doing his thing. But speaking of this Ram. So I've been seeing all over the place, Frostee. That's why I wanted to get on and talk with you about this without diving straight into contracts, which I just don't think there's any plausible way this can happen. But Deshaun Watson, obviously, that's been the hot topic. He wants out of Houston, but he has no trade clause. He hasn't physically requested a trade. So as of now, that literally has no chance of happening because they cannot trade him right now until he officially waives that. So that's kind of off the topic, but we can talk about it if you want a little bit. Matthew Stafford and the Lions just came out and they said they've mutually agreed to part ways. So that would require a trade. And then Aaron Rodgers in his press conference yesterday alluded to he doesn't know his future and didn't officially say he's not going to be back, but now everyone's speculating he wants out. They drafted a quarterback in the first round. So let's just get into it, Frostee. Everyone is saying they want to upgrade from Goff. They want to move on. We've talked a lot that his contract really doesn't allow you to do that, but is there one of these quarterbacks you think there's even the slightest possibility of that happening, I guess?
That would be Stafford.
That's it, right?
That's it. That makes the most sense to me. Stafford's tired of being on the bottom barrel and mediocre. Each year he's throwing for 4,500 yards. He's doing everything possible that he can do. And it's his time to shine. It's his time to be in the playoffs. It's his time to make some moves. If they make a move, I would think the Rams would be it. I don't think the Rams fans would be too upset with having him.
Oh, yeah.
I think he adds a little bit more ability at the quarterback position. He runs. He can throw any throw. And he's a leader. He's a great leader for what the team has had. And, any guys that I've known that played with him as teammates never said a bad thing about him. And that says a long ways because everyone has something to say. Everyone's critiquing each other. Oh, yeah. I didn't get enough footballs thrown at me. He did this. Nothing. Yeah. So if anything, that makes the most sense to me. We can go down the list at the rest of the guys, but dollar for dollar amount, what's on the cap, this makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. And we'll go player by player quickly. But it's just feasibly, I just don't see how any of these happen with Goff, commanding $35 million a year. As the cap stands right now, the Rams are over $30 million. So they got to cut down to get down to zero. And then you got to clear at least $20 million to make one of these trades happen because just, the formality of actually processing the trade, you have to have cap space. And I know like someone like Stafford, his contract would stay on the Lions books for 1 year, whereas Goff's contract would stay on the Rams, but there's still that weird jargon that we won't get into because I don't even fully understand it all, but I just don't really see it's feasible. But if there was a way to happen, I think I agree with you 100%. The Stafford one is the only one that actually could happen. And you have the fact that they just hired their new GM, which is the former lead scout for the Rams. So there's the connection there. He was the guy that scouted Jared Goff at Cal, made one of the decisions. Obviously, he wasn't the GM, but had the push to draft him number 1 overall. So maybe there's a chance he still believes on him. Goff is only 26 years old, whereas Stafford's 32. So they would upgrade there. Because you have to look at it. I keep seeing all these fans like, oh, yeah, we could just trade Goff for this and that. And the other team wants to upgrade their quarterback position. They're just going to give you a better quarterback just to take off your expensive one. So
what can you offer them at the same rate besides just the quarterback? If there's draft picks, this and the other. And that's what makes it all interesting. And that's why we might just be stuck with Jared Goff.
Yeah.
But if there's a rhyme or a reason and how it could happen, I think if we're going player for player, it's Goff and Stafford, it makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. And it would still cost the Rams probably a first. They don't have one this year, but it'd be another first next year or a couple twos. They're still going to have to send some picks because when you have that contract, I think that's what really, it's not necessarily Goff is just horrible because we talk a lot. We know we believe in him. We think he's a good quarterback when given the right tools. He can definitely he's 26 years old. The dude can turn things around, but because of that contract, they're going to have to give more than what they get in return. But the Stafford makes the most sense. And let's talk briefly. Watson, I mentioned it. He hasn't even waived his no trade clause. So to me, it's not happening. No chance.
Yeah, there's no chance it happens. He's being disgruntled, and we see why. We know why. There's nothing we can really sit here and say. And he's not being selfish. He's done everything he's supposed to do. He shows up. He's the leader. He's the NFL passing leader. There's absolutely nothing negative we could say about how Deshaun is acting towards this. He did send out a tweet that said, "I need to be more patient," or just saying patience. And that means a lot too, right?
Yeah.
He's showing so much poise for being how old he is in a situation that he needs to sit back and let everything happen. But he's unhappy. He doesn't want to be there. And Houston has to do a lot of things to make it kosher for him.
Yeah.
And a lot of things there's going to be scraping some big name guys out of there to make them feel the better team. And that may be JJ Watt. I hate to say it like that, but to get him off the books and be able to add a whole bunch of new players and get some draft picks and stuff, that's probably the only thing that's going to happen to make sure Deshaun's happy. And they have a relationship, but I'm sure he had a relationship with Hopkins and he's gone, right? And that's probably one of the reasons he's disgruntled. So a lot can play out in that. I think he needs to just chill out and let it happen and let Houston do everything they can do to court him to stay.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact that he hasn't, waived the clause, demanded a trade, because he's obviously, everyone knows he's upset. He's publicly said he's upset, but he still hasn't said, "I want out." And I think that one shows the maturity that he's like, you know what? I'm frustrated, but I'm not bailing on the Houston Texans yet. He hasn't come out and said, "I want out, get rid of me. I'm not playing for you guys. I'm not showing up." He may do that down the line. But I do want to give him credit for the maturity of just, voicing his opinion, but saying, "Hey, as of now, I'm here. I want to make this work. Let's make it right." There's all different reports flying around there. We haven't talked to him, so I don't want to, put words in his mouth or whatnot. But when it comes to the Rams right now, it feasibly, even if he did ask to be traded, there's been reports the Houston Texans start the bidding at 3 first-round picks. So there's no shot the Rams get Deshaun Watson. Absolutely zero. I would put negative percent points that the Rams could land Deshaun Watson.
So we are, again, and it just sucks for Deshaun. He's one of the hardest working guys out there. That same thing has been echoed since he was in college and he won big there. He's a winner. He wants to win. And what people are finally seeing, these athletes have a short window of success. I mean, Stafford has sat there in Detroit for a decade now. He's made plenty of money. He wants to win. He's a winner. Inside his heart, he knows everyone around him in that organization knows he's a winner, and this chance he gets to break loose. But with Deshaun going into year 3 of a program, signing the contract he did, if this was the case, and he shouldn't have signed it, right? Yeah. So as of now, it's just almost like you're just going to sit. You got plenty of money. Don't play. Force their hand that way. If not, hopefully Houston can do some things to make it kosher around him. But they've done a lot of things to make him disgruntled. And this is the hardest working guy in your building.
Yeah.
The guy that shows up at 5 a.m., leaves at 8, dedicates his body, his soul, his mind. They got to make it right. And I don't know how, but they got to bring more players to Houston. And it should be a nice opportunity for more people to come. Houston's not a bad place to live.
No, not at all. Cheap, great, fairly good climate overall, and a lot of cool stuff to do. And I'm sure he's sitting looking at, Patrick Mahomes, who was drafted just 3 picks before him, and what the Chiefs built around Mahomes. And Mahomes is great. We'll get to that later. But what they've built in Kansas City is everything a quarterback could dream of. And he's sitting here like, You trade away my best receiver. You trade away my running back. You trade away my left tackle. You do all this. I know they brought in Larry Tunsil too, but so it's unfortunate, and they'll try to rebuild it. But yeah. So when it pertains to the Rams, let's just forget about Deshaun Watson. That's not happening.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers. Let's touch on him quickly. I know there's people saying, oh, he has ties to California. He would love to play here. You know, it's warmer weather. I agree. Aaron Rodgers would be great if you could get him. Let me say again, any of these three quarterbacks, I would love to be on the Rams. I think they would instantly make the Rams better. I just don't feasibly think it can happen with Rodgers. I think he has 3 years left on his deal. The cap hits are similar between him and Goff. But again, the Packers aren't going to trade for a quarterback like Jared Goff who can't play in the cold. That's been his MO. So you're going to trade for a quarterback that can't play in the cold. And guess what? Every home game after September, you're playing in frigid temperatures. It's not going to happen.
So we have to take a look at it. Aaron's the one who said the future is uncertain there for him and his teammates, right? So he is really the one that's in charge there. The Packers did draft a first-round pick, a guy that they believe in and should be next up, right?
Yeah.
Aaron got to see that with Favre. It was only a matter of time before Favre was out of the way, and it was Aaron's show. This year, again, you draft a first-round pick, you want to play him, because if not, you're just paying him a lot of money to sit there, which isn't the bad thing if you're grooming him the right way. Yeah. But, again, A-Rod is showing you that he's disgruntled. He can show you he can ball. And I just really think that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up being the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. I think he's going to pair back up with McCartney, and they're going to get this thing rolling. And that's why Dallas didn't pay Dak.
That's interesting. Didn't him and McCarthy, though, have kind of like, not bad blood, but had a little riff at the end there?
I don't know. But
I mean, it makes sense if they didn't.
That's an option. You know, I think it's a valuable option. Dallas didn't pay Dak when they should have paid him like everyone else. Dak did everything he's supposed to do, and they never paid him.
Yeah.
And he gets hurt. Right? And I'm sure he's ahead of schedule in his rehab and all that. Doctors are phenomenal these days. Dr. Nima, shout out. Yeah, that's where I think he lands. And then there's an opportunity for him to get out of there and go to San Francisco.
That's the other one I was going to say. That one makes a lot of sense too.
It makes sense, but, you know, you hear all the gossip, and A-Rod doesn't get along with his family, and that's where they're from, and this, that, and the other. I don't think he's going to go out there and basically take a price cut off taxes to play out there in Santa Clara, where he can go to Dallas and a no state tax place.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that I didn't even think about Dallas, but yeah, that makes, considering as of right now, or when the new league year hits, Dak will be a free agent. So who knows what his future holds and if it's with Dallas or not. And obviously the ties. Yeah, I think there are connections with the Rams. You know, there's some coaches that he knows, and obviously who doesn't want to come play in SoFi in LA, and we have a good receiving core here with Woods and Kupp. Again, I just don't think it's feasibly possible for the Rams. The only way the Rams bring in one of these big quarterbacks is by trading Goff. You can't have both, obviously. You can't cut Goff. The dead money is like $67 million in dead money. They would literally have to cut half their roster just to afford both those contracts, and one of them's not even gonna be on your team. So you can't cut him. So you have to trade him. And I just don't see a way you can trade to the Packers. Now, I've heard other people say, what about a three-way trade, which we never see in the NFL? You see it in the NBA all the time, never in the NFL. But what about, you know, a quarterback needy team like Indianapolis? Phillip Rivers just retired.
And he's inside. Yeah, he's not outside.
Yeah.
In the cold.
You know, teams like that. Like, what if they trade Goff to them for some picks, and then trade someone else on the Rams plus picks to get Rod? I've seen some scenarios, and, you know, on paper you can make the numbers work. I just don't see it happening. I just really, if Watson's a 0% chance, Rodgers is maybe a 0.5% chance.
Well, I just love that they're going to have to create a stew of possibilities to make something like this happen. You know, I hate that he has a stigma. I hate how he has to be in this position making this much money, that he should be the guy, and we shouldn't be having to talk about, you know, their franchise player being traded and he's the one on the hot seat. I hate that we have to deal with this, right? I hate that the stigma's behind him, that he can't play in the cold, because immediately when I'm thinking about the cold, I'm thinking, well, he can't go to Green Bay. They can't trade there. You can't send him to the Washington Football Club, even though they don't have a quarterback right now.
Yeah, another one.
Right? You know? if he can't play in the cold, he can't do that, and we're limiting him. But it's very unfortunate that he's the one on the hot seat. And that means this offseason, no matter what happens, Goff better be in that lab, because the message is out that they can do or do without you. And that's what you don't want. You don't want to say, we can roll with it because we have to pay him, but I'd rather have that guy.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. I can look how many trades and how many draft picks can we get to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a very tough situation to swallow as a Rams fan, because just 2 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl, Goff's jerseys were selling out. Everyone was pumped up.
He was the guy.
And now, all of a sudden, just like Gurley, he was on his way out, even though he was a top jersey seller and got them to the Super Bowl. It's Goff's turn to bear the heat. And at that quarterback position and at that dollar amount, you better believe you got to produce.
They have to. Yeah. And especially the Rams have been in a win now mode, and they still kind of have extended it with all these things. But the way they've been dealing these draft picks, they're in win now mode, and eventually that's going to run out. And all their top guys are eventually going to be gone, and they're going to be playing with a bunch of young bucks that weren't drafted high, which not saying you can't be successful, but they're in this window right now where they really need to keep this playoff push going. And is Goff the guy that can do that? I think he can still improve. I mean, improve pre-snap stuff, improve different looks that he does before hiking the ball, but will he? I mean, that's up to him.
Has anyone even paid attention to Goff to New Orleans?
Another option.
A dome team, money off the books, big money off the books, if Drew Brees does happen to sign those papers and retire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
that's appetizing. I mean, it's right there, and Drew Brees doesn't do a lot of 5-step drops. Those are 3 steps. He's getting the ball out of there.
Yeah.
Good offense, good running back to pair him with. You've seen how he did with Gurley with the running back. Now you got Alvin. I think it's right there for him. If,
that's a good one.
Something we haven't thought of, and it could happen. That's just how much do people believe in Goff's ability to actually take him to that next level. Mm-hmm. And he got him to the Super Bowl, so it's out there.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there now.
I like that, Frost. I didn't really think about that. I haven't looked at New Orleans cap situation to see what they'd be able to do, but just on the surface, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say Goff was as good or not a little better than what Drew Brees put out there this year. Drew Brees is one of the best ever, but we could see him, Father Time was catching up with him and tapering off, and Goff can certainly do what he did. I'd be interesting to see if we see a trade scenario similar to what happened with Brock Osweiler and the Houston Texans a few years ago, where they literally traded him for nothing just to get him off the books. They're like, please just take him with his contract. Houston traded Osweiler and a 2nd-round pick to Cleveland for cash. So maybe the Rams try to do something like that. Say, hey, Sean Payton, we got a quarterback. He can play in a dome. Take him off our hands, and we'll give you a 2nd-round pick to boot.
Yeah, people pay people to stay away from him all the time.
Dang. Yeah. Poor Goff, man. I think he's 26 years old.
This position that you're the franchise player, but they're just telling you can get the hell out of here, and they won't skip a beat. It just sucks. But again, does the Rams, do they listen to all this outside pressure? Does McVay listen? Mm-hmm. Right? Does he obviously said everyone's up for evaluation and this, that, and the other. And when you go over your tape and you're evaluating, he didn't play the best football. They sputtered in games because of him a lot, when other quarterbacks could have got busy with the talent around him, the offensive line that was there. They would have got busy with it. So this is an interesting offseason, and, there's a variety of possibilities.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about him quickly, because I just want to mention it. What I think is more realistic happening is they sign a veteran, somewhat mobile quarterback to come in and push Goff, compete with Goff. I don't think Sean McVay is going to be afraid to the contract, even if Goff's on the roster. He says, if this guy gives us a better chance to win, like I think he goes for that. So 2 names that I just saw, I'm looking through the free agency list of quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor, who's right here in LA, and Jacoby Brissett. Now, I'm not saying those guys are upgrades over Goff, but in McVay's system could be successful. Accurate quarterbacks, don't turn the ball over. You could get them in for cheap, maybe $2 to $4 million, whatever the veteran minimum is. Have them come compete. At the very worst, they push Goff to be better, I should say at the very best, they take over and can run McVay's system. At the very worst, they push Goff to be better.
Hey, man, we're sitting here in Los Angeles, in a city with my alma mater, and there's been this head coach situation here that they won't move them because what's on the books. Mm-hmm. So they keep them and they build stuff around them, but they won't pay someone just to sit. So that may very well be the same scenario here. They may just say, we're going with them, but we got to get a heck of a backup.
Yeah.
Because at some point we may have to turn to him, and he may be the driving force to lead us to where we got to go. And what happened this past year, you had Walford, a guy that never took a snap in the NFL due to COVID. Not that he played so terrible that he beat the Cardinals to get him in the playoffs, but they rather went into that game with someone that's already thrown the ball, and had some starts under their belt. And I think that's, just it's to the reason of professional sports. You got to build your depth the right way, and you got to be very smart. Remember, I want to be a GM, so I'm telling you now the secrets.
That's right. Yeah, and I know Tyrod Taylor and Jacoby Brissett are like the sexy names, but to me, those just are actual feasible options, realistic options. And we could sit here and have fun all we want and say, oh, if we do this, we can get Stafford with these packages and blah, 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 blah. And, there's a world where maybe, if anyone could do it, Les Snead, he's sprinkled magic fairy dust a lot and made stuff happen. So I just don't see it. And I see bringing in a guy like that can, hey, A, you're going to push Goff. B, you have a good backup in case something happens, in case, his thumb flares. I know he has a full offseason to recover, but in case he does get injured, or C, if he's really not playing well, at least you turn it over to a guy that's won games, that's been in the playoffs, that's played for different organizations and has, that has the, the dog you want to keep playing. Because, let's be honest, being a first-round pick, getting a contract after your third year, one of the most lucrative in NFL history. I'm not saying Goff doesn't want it, but he needs that fire back in his belly that someone like Tyrod Taylor, who's been on 4 different teams, been replaced by first-round picks. He just wants to go out there and ball, and maybe he comes in and does something special. Who knows? Yeah,
and I think they missed big, and they had an opportunity to probably get Andy Dalton. Right?
Yeah. They got Dallas gone for $1 million as a backup. Even Jameis Winston.
And now Jameis Winston's either going to be the starter in New Orleans, or they're going to draft someone or get someone there. So that's what I'm saying. There's an opportunity there right there for Goff to, get the helm there.
Yeah. A lot of options. That's why I love the offseason. Season never ends.
And it's going to be unfortunate. They may have to lose a couple good players to even field the team.
Oh, yeah. John Johnson, I think, will be gone. Leonard Floyd's going to be really hard to bring back. Yeah, we'll get more into some more free agency stuff with the whole team, but they're not in a great spot. Luckily, they have most of their stars locked up, but it's going to be tough. Yeah, got to keep drafting well in the mid-rounds like they've done. Luckily, they have drafted very well in the mid-rounds.
Has anyone renegotiated, or has anyone looked at their own contracts and came back to the table and see what they could restructure?
Yeah, that's always an option. I know I've seen people mentioning Jalen Ramsey and Cooper Kupp, but how many guys want to restructure after 1 year? They just signed they just extended last offseason. Is that something that you think guys would be willing to do?
Not the worst thing that can happen. They're just pushing some money in the front of it. And that's obviously with your athletes you want anyway. You want the most money now. And,
So you could, because I always get a little bit confused by this. So is this something that's possible? So say your contract is, just off the top of my head, say it's $10 million cap hit. I've seen the jargon before say they converted that to like a cash signing bonus and converted your cap hit to just like $1 million. Is that actually something that can happen?
Yeah, it happens, but it's like putting a Band-Aid over like an open wound, not just a cut. You can get away with it, but then you're right back to the table with this issue again. And that's maybe something that they could do for Goff, restructure it, then shop them.
Yeah. That would help. That would certainly help.
Never know what's happening, but like you said, it's a GM's job now, do your part and make this, make it happen, make the magic happen.
Yep. Let's see it. So we'll see what Les Snead has up his sleeve. Let's do a little Chargers talk quick, Frost. They have filled out the, it's not officially official. At least the team has announced it, but it's pretty much official. Not the rest of the coaching staff, but at least the big positions. Joe Lombardi will be the offensive coordinator. He was the Saints DB coach. Also had a stint as the offensive coordinator with the Lions back on Jim Caldwell's staff. We'll just talk briefly and go one by one. So, I think it's a good hire, obviously working with Drew Brees, working with Sean Payton. He's had experience as an OC. So I think the big thing for Staley is bringing some guys in that do have more experience just to help him out in that realm. So overall, I think it's a good hire, though. I mean, we work with great quarterbacks like he did with Breeze, with Matthew Stafford, and implementing different offensive schemes and systems. I think it'll be good for the Chargers and good for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt him. I think, but you do want to find someone that's going to be with him for the next couple of years, at least 5 years. You don't want to keep bringing new people in and that, because that's one way to destroy a young guy's career. The more turnovers with coaches aren't good. And I really thought that they should have kept Pep. I thought they should have kept a couple other pieces to that offense, but that's what happens with somewhat success. Guys get snatched up, guys want to progress in their own careers, and they leave you behind, and then you're just sitting there. So hopefully, the moves they do make are concrete and they stay there for a little while and build something nice, because they do have a great foundation to build off. Yeah,
and maybe I haven't gotten totally into Lombardi's, offensive scheme when he was in Detroit as the actual offensive coordinator. So I haven't gotten into that yet since the news just announced yesterday. I'd like to get into that more, but I wonder if this was a move where it's a guy that's been in the league for a while, so obviously experience is there. I'm not saying you hire because of this, but they're not, like you mentioned too, they're not worried about him maybe being poached in 1 year. So there can be some continuity with him and Justin Herbert. Whereas this is just my personal opinion, I think Pep Hamilton's going to be a head coach very soon. I think he'll be a head coach in a year or two.
Yeah, and I thought Pep was going to be there just to have that stability, pay him some more money. And I think keeping Pep would have just been the best thing for Justin Herbert. But again, you go other ways, and hopefully Joe Lombardi comes in and has a plan. Hopefully he's done his own film work on Herbert, so he knows where his strengths, weaknesses. And again, we have a whole offseason of time that these guys can master a plan, and just hopeful they're there together for the next few years.
Yeah, and the fact that he was around future Hall of Famer Drew Brees for a long time, I think bodes very well. So I like the hire. I watched Brandon Staley's entire press conference, and being a defensive guy, how do you make sure you bring in and implement an offense that continues the rise of Justin Herbert? And he said, hey, I know I'm a defensive guy, but I played quarterback. I'm going to have my hands on this offense too. Like, I'm not hiring someone that's just going to run that show and I'm running the defensive side. I'm going to have my hands on this offense. So I think that goes into it too. Him saying, okay, I'm not worried about guys coming and going because we'll have this system in place. It doesn't hurt that Lombardi is the son of the great Vince Lombardi, right? It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
All right. So defensive coordinator hired Ronaldo Hill, who was the defensive back coach with the Denver Broncos. Has not a long history, but a history with Brandon Staley, since Brandon Staley was with Denver a season ago. So there is some continuity there, being on the same staff. An up-and-coming guy, played in the league as a defensive back, has been coaching, I think, since 2012 when he started at Wyoming, and then got a stint with the Pittsburgh Steelers and then with the Broncos. So a younger up-and-coming guy. I actually texted Cody Rourke this morning, who covers the Broncos, just asking him, what he thought of Hill and what he thought of the hire. And he said, the players love him. Great defensive mind. And I think he'll be a great hire for this Chargers team. So overall, I think it's a good move too. It's one of those names that not a lot of people know, but I think there's excitement behind it.
And that was a Brandon Staley pick. Not a sexy name. It's not anyone that we thought was going to get here and land the position. But here you are. You got someone that's up and coming. You need new energy when you're dealing with these young cats. You need someone that can motivate them and talk their same language nowadays, and get the most out of your players. So the jury's going to be out on that one. It's just another coach that has a full offseason to mold and gel his team and give them an identity that they're going to play off.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's been in Vic Fangio's system, he coached with Staley, so they know each other. They have similar. Obviously, he wants to bring a guy in that has a similar thought process, similar concepts, and I think that meshes perfectly with Ronaldo Hill. And if he's a guy players get behind and really respect and listen to and enjoy, that's obviously a slam dunk there. And I like it. So we'll see a lot more of this growing foundation that Staley's building. And we saw with Denver last year, I can speak on that, how their defensive backfield was just decimated by injuries and cornerback. In the last few games, they were on their 6th, 7th, and 8th starter because, their top two guys, Bryce Callahan and AJ Bouye, were both out. They had injuries all across the board, and they still, they obviously were not as strong, but they still were able to develop. We saw Michael Ojemudia, who was a 3rd-round pick last year and really developed into a starter. So I think that bodes really well too, bringing a guy over that we've seen develop these young kids. And now we have guys over with the Chargers, if they bring back Michael Davis and development of these corners, where they can do a lot of good things. So in that realm, I really, really like it as well.
Same.
So the adaptability, man, that's big. A lot of these old school DCs we're seeing kind of pushed out, and the new up and coming ones that will adapt. And we talked about Raheem Morris, how he's implemented so many different systems and does whatever works for his guys. And that's what we'll see with Staley and now Ronaldo Hill. So I love it. I think it's a good one. Lastly, for us, let's talk special teams real quick. Darius Swinton, your former team. I know he wasn't there when you were there, but he was the assistant coordinator with the Arizona Cardinals. I've been doing some research on him. Seems like a good guy. He's been around the league in this assistant position. So he knows special teams. Chargers had one of the worst units in the NFL, so it can't get much worse. So overall, from what I can tell, seems like a good hire as well.
Yeah, now special teams has to be just right up there with the offense and defensive coordinator and how important it is, because special teams is just another huge facet of the game. If you use it to your ability, you can use it for setting the tone of a game. It's field position, it's points, and it's very important. And I'm glad they went out there and they got the right guy for the job. And hopefully he has a plan, and these guys tend to it.
Yeah. You talk all the time about, and I do too, how these games, most of them are won by 3 points. And guess what? That's the special teams. Whether it is, field position or not giving up, field position, making kicks, extra points. It's very, very important. I've been wanting to ask you, Frost, with special teams, because I played some in high school. I know it's a different realm. I always bring it up, but you played some in the NFL. I'm always curious what the coach actually does. Because when I was playing it in high school, and again, this is high school, our coach literally said, okay, we're going to do return left, return right, or return center. That was the coaching of the special teams coach in high school.
So special teams coach in NFL is it's a little bit more than that. Obviously, you have to be in tune with your snapper, holder, kicker, your punter. The majority of your energy has to go to them. But you have to cover such a wide range with kickoff return, punt return. So they really have their hands full, and they should be paid a lot more for the matter of times they're on the field and the matter of times they have to execute. These are plays that people don't really think about it until it happens at the end of the game and they have to do an onside kick and it needs to be successful, or until you have to recover that in the front line of your kickoff return on your when they're going to onside, it has to do the blocking and doesn't go up for a catch like Green Bay did a few years ago and the guy missed it when he should have been blocking. Yeah. Right? There's a very important keys and procedures of the game of football, and it's now becoming a spotlight position because there's so many big plays, and people want more possessions in football games and field position and stuff like that, and special teams the answer to it.
Yeah, and so is one of the really key components of a special teams coach is just discipline? Because I see all the time, like, special teams allows a kick return, and immediately everyone fire the special teams coach. And I'm like, well, technically those guys missed their blocking assignment, but does that just come down to discipline and repetition and practice? And
it's reps, but you don't get the bulk of the reps because they have to do the offense and defense. So those meetings are very more intense. The special teams coach knows, you got to think about everyone in the NFL probably when they came from college, they never played special teams, but now there's only so many people that dress and there's not walk-ons that get to just play in the games on kickoff and stuff like that.
That's why they're in the NFL, special teams.
There you go. So it adds so much more to people's plates that it has to be that more detailed. And who you block on a certain play can ruin a game. If you don't block someone on field goal block, and like you said, it's a matter of 3 points. If someone comes off the edge and you don't step the right way, and they, people watch that on tape. If you watch special teams, I'm just saying you watch field goal, and if they stack 3 guys on the tight end and knock them over, if you didn't have your proper footwork and you didn't do it right, just best believe the next 3 weeks of the season, you're going to see that same field goal block right at you, because that's just an area where they can make an extra play on you. And it just has to be detailed. And you have to be able to grasp these guys that are lifelong starters of offense or defense, and they have to buy in to help the cause of the game, because there's not extra roster spots just for special teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And So I like the hire. I think it's good. I think all of them are good. I like all four, if you include Raheem Morris, for these LA teams. So I think they'll be good. And I'm pleased. I'm curious your thoughts, but I'm pleased that 3 out of the 4 of them were all black coaches. More opportunity, hopefully, and hopefully we'll see a rise in head coaches that I know is still a point of conversation, as it should be. But I liked it, seeing them getting opportunities here in LA, and hopefully, if, like I said, the trend continues with the Rams, we'll see Raheem Morris in a head coaching role very soon.
Yeah, it's either you're going to see it happen or you're not, right? And unfortunately, we're still talking about this, but fortunately, we are. You know, there's 2 ways of looking at it, and I'm glad that these hires are happening and no one has to call them out to even have these guys in for interviews, right? Yeah. It moves the needle a little bit. It shows that a football sport that is 95% played by African Americans, you know, they could be put in leadership positions and make this thing go. You know, look at Tampa Bay's, look at the Super Bowl.
All 4,
right? Yeah, all their coordinators are African American. Head coach is white, but look who's running the show, and they're there. And that shows right there. Bruce Arians does a great job, and I think doing that gives a little extra for your teammates, or, you know, guys switching careers and coming out of football, knowing that they too can get success and be at the top, and they don't have to just be assistants and things like that. They can actually be real contributors to the team.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll just see that continue to rise. We've had, you know, ups and downs. I know a few years ago there were quite a few hires, and then they all unfortunately were fired shortly after. So hopefully we'll see that continue to rise. But that's a good way to end the show, I think. You mentioned Bruce Arians, Tampa Bay back in the Super Bowl. So let's end with these championship games, these championship weekends. Let's start with your former coach. I mean, guys in his playing in his first coaching in his first Super Bowl as a head coach. I believe he won one as an assistant with the Steelers. Yeah, I mean, hats off that staff. Byron Leftwich, who should be a head coaching candidate if he was. I mean, he wasn't really this year, but he should be very soon. Todd Bowles has been one, probably should be another one again. But yeah, what'd you like of that game? And, you know, Brady, we mentioned it earlier, in his 10th Super Bowl.
He's the GOAT. So I'll like to say this. I want to say congratulations to my old coach and his staff, which many of them coached me for a number of years in Arizona, some of the best times in my football career. And they got the most out of me and the most success I had playing professional sports. So hats off to them to get into the big dance. I know from the start of the season, that was the goal. There's no other goal to Bruce Arians for being up there at the helm of coaching but to win a Super Bowl. That's it. He's all in on that. Everything you do translates to winning the Super Bowl. So hats off to them. They did what they're supposed to do. I thought going to Green Bay was going to be a very tough thing for them, but I forgot that their quarterback had ice in his veins and he was just going to play ball and lead his team. He did throw 3 interceptions and gave Green Bay a lot of chances to win that, and that's something that needs to be highlighted. And that's why I thought Green Bay was going to win. So don't get mad at me, Coach. I just thought playing in the elements of Lambeau in Wisconsin, I thought it was going to be a different outcome, but I'm not sitting here saying I did not want them to get to this game. And I did, and they're here, and I'm rooting for them. They're going to play versus a very, very, very talented team and the defending champions, which are the Chiefs, and we're in for a heck of a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it should be a great game. Watching that Tampa Bay Packers game, it sounds weird to say that, Tampa Bay and Green Bay game, 2 bays. I didn't even think about that right now. But, you know, when you look at Green Bay, you get 3 turnovers. I don't think they got any points off those turnovers. They allow a last-second touchdown at the end of the first half, which I don't know how you allowed that to happen. They were literally, that was the last play of the half. There was going to be no points scored. Just don't let anyone get behind you. And they allow a touchdown there. I'm not at all saying, and, you know, I can sit here all I want, be, you know, on the couch, but I'm not saying Tampa Bay didn't deserve to win, but I thought Green Bay did more to lose than Tampa Bay did to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's fair to say. You know, again, you see the touchdown before the half. That's one of the things I can remember being in team meetings with Bruce Arians talking about. We need to score before the half. You know, those are things that you have a rhyme or reason to why things work. And he will lecture those things and teach and go over them over and over to their second nature when it comes to playing on a Sunday. And one of those very lessons is why they're playing the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I look at Tampa Bay throughout the season and, you know, they're in the Super Bowl. They made it, rightfully so. I'm just curious how they'll play against a Kansas City Chiefs team when So Tampa Bay beat one team with the winning record in the regular season. If you include the playoffs, they beat 3 because their first playoff game was against Washington, who won 7 games. So they had a very easy road to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs won 5 games in the regular season, 8 if you include, or 7 if you include the playoffs. Again, that's all just fun jargon. Doesn't really matter when it comes down to it. But I just look at the Tampa Bay's route, and it's almost like it was laid out for them. Hey, you have the home stadium as your Super Bowl. We got an easy schedule for you to get in there. And here you go. And let's let Brady ride off again. But they made it, and I'm just being probably grumpy.
It wasn't easy.
Him.
Let's be real here, because Brady has
it's still the NFL. Yeah.
And everyone scratched their head like, is he still got it? Is he washed up? There's a couple games out there on national TV that he didn't fare well. The Rams, for one, right? He didn't fare well. So all that matters is they won when it mattered. They're in the big show, and it's on Tampa Bay to dethrone the champs. You know, just because Brady's been there and he's the GOAT, he still has to dethrone the champs. They're right back. They're confident as ever. Mahomes looked great. I didn't see any concussion things. I didn't even notice he had a bad toe.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one for the ages.
You think they have a shot? Or you like KC in it? We'll talk more as it gets closer, previewing it if you want. But
I gotta dissect this a little bit more.
Yeah, that's fair. So should be a good game. And yeah, the Buffalo KC game I was hoping would be more of a game. I think KC pretty much dominated after that first possession. They just put the gas down, and they were KC, best team in the NFL in my opinion.
Yeah, they're the best. And I thought Buffalo would have did a little bit different. But again, KC came through the way they do. They played magically. Mahomes.
Yeah.
He's special.
Well, maybe Bowles will give old Raheem Morris a call and say how Atlanta slowed down KC, and maybe Bowles loves to blitz. So maybe they'll double Kelsey, double Hill, and blitz a lot and see what happens. But
well, if you double them, you got to make sure your up front guys can get to the quarterback, and that's just the thing. And when they get there, they actually make the tackle. Or as my old coach Tom Pratt used to say, you got to make the layup. You get all the way there, make the layup. And the one thing I know, Todd Bowles is going to go into this game. He's going to say you can't let the best guy beat you, and you got a couple best guys on that roster on the opposite side. So this is really going to put Todd Bowles to the test on and his team really to see how they come up with a game plan to stop Mahomes.
Absolutely.
Or contain him.
Contain, yeah. You're not really going to stop him. You slow him down, contain him, but will be a good one. So, all right, man. Well, I think that was a good show. I know we went probably a little longer than usual, but we were just flowing and chatting and had a good time. So thanks for jumping on with me. It was fun.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And remember, go to kansascitysteaks.com because that's what we're going to be eating for this Super Bowl. Is that why Kansas City's there? Because of these steaks?
I guess so. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you. Because I forgot. Yeah. kansascitysteaks.com/game day. Don't worry. If you're not a Chiefs fan, doesn't mean you can't have some steaks from Kansas City Steaks. Great packages there. You get $25 off plus free shipping if you use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV at checkout. kansascitysteaks.com/game day. I know Frost and myself. Have you already ordered? Maybe you already have.
No, because it would have got here already. So I'm waiting, but I will.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, have your game day ready for Super Bowl. kansascitysteaks.com/game day. Use the promo code BELIEVE at checkout. All right, Frost. Great show. Where can everyone find you at?
I'm at The Organic Frost, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. Also, email me at frosteepodcast@yahoo.com.
Yes, sir. Hit him up on Twitter. We're trying to blow that Twitter feed up to get him more involved. You can find me at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. Main account is at LAFB Network. We're also on YouTube. Videos up there. We're going to be doing some more video breakdowns throughout the off season. All of that at LAFB Network. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you listen, we are. Frost, thank you, sir.
You got it, man. Thanks, Ryan. And check in with you next time.
Yes, sir. This is the LA Football Podcast. Thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you in a few days.